What's going on YouTube? It is James Q Quick from Learn Build Teach. Now, I mentioned in a previous video, I've been working with Python in a class that I'm teaching, and I realized that writing out Python classes is kind of tedious. So I created a Python class generator extension for VS Code to help you guys create Python classes. So let's walk through how to create a Python class generator extension in VS Code. All right, so I'm going to start here with just the link to the actual extension, so you guys can check this out yourself. It's called the Python class generator. You can search for it on the VS Code marketplace, or I've got a direct link in the description here. So as you may or may not be able to see from this the little video here, basically what happens is you prompt a user to for the name of a class they want to create, like a person class. Ask them to add or to type in the properties of that class, like name and age. And then this extension will generate that class for them. So that's what we're going to walk through and do today. If you need a little extra reference for a little background on how VS Code extensions work, you can go and check out this article, Create Your First Visual Studio Code Extension on Scotch. I'll have a link to that as well as the video for you guys to check out as well. So let's go ahead and dive into VS Code. So before we actually get started, you'll want to make sure that you have two extensions installed, NPM packages. So you want to have Yo installed as well as the generator code extension. So the generator code extension is a scaffolding tool to help you create your VS Code extension. So that's what we're going to use here. I'm going to say Yo code. This is going to help me walk through the steps of creating that extension. So it'll ask me a series of questions starting with TypeScript or JavaScript for a regular extension. Do JavaScript. Name of your extension, Python class generator. And then the identifier is fine like that. Description creates Python classes. Type checking, no, not right now. Initialize Git repository, no, not for this one. And then npm is my package manager. So it's going to run through and actually do an install of all the necessary packages. And while that's running, you can see over here in the Explorer, the two main files we care about are the package.json, which have different characteristics about our extension. And then the extension.js in here is where the actual code lives for our extension. So this is saying it's registering a VS Code command called hello world, and it does this piece of code when that command gets executed. So just so you guys can see what that looks like, if I go ahead and run this, what it's going to do in debug mode is it's going to open up VS Code on another window for me. And so there that is. So I basically got this other instance of VS Code where you can test out your extension. And if I do my hello world command, it's going to print out the hello world here. So now I want to change this up a little bit. I want the command to actually be, let's say, py class, and we'll save that. And then back in the package.json, there's an activation event. So this is when you want your extension to actually be loaded. So I'm going to load the extension when we actually call that command. And then the commands array right here is the commands that actually get added to your command palette. So I want this to call the py class command that we defined in our extension.js, and then say the title of this is going to be create Python class. So if I save this and then refresh my debugger, and then come over to my debug instance of VS Code and open my command palette and create Python class, we should get that same hello world message popping up down there. And I'll need to do an update of VS Code at some point soon. All right, so we've got our base stuff figured out. Now we actually need to do the logic to go ahead and create this extension. So what this extension is going to do, it's going to create a file with the name that the user inputs, and write it to create that file in the currently open directory. So first, we want to make sure that the user actually has a directory open. So if VS Code workspace folders, if there's not a folder open, then this thing will be falsy. So if that's the case, then I just want to go ahead and return, and then open up a window to show an error message and say, please open a directory before creating a class. All right, so this will just make sure again that the user has a folder already open. Then we want to go ahead and ask the user for the name of the class they want to create. So we'll say class name, And I'm going to use await here. So this is async await. To use that, we need to annotate this function as async. And it still gives me, I'm not actually sure why, some sort of ESLint rule that's giving me squiggly lines there, but it actually is okay. So we want to wait vscode.window.show input box. And then in here, we can say what the prompt is going to be. And we're just going to say class name. Okay. And just in case the user backs out of this, if they like start this and then back out, press escape or something, if class name is falsy, then we'll go ahead and return as well. So here, just to test this out, we can go ahead and log the class name to make sure we're getting it correctly. So refresh debugging up here again, and we'll go over to our other VS Code, and we'll do that same command, create Python class, and it's saying open a directory, which is true. So let me open one of these Python test folders that I've got here. So we've got this created, and actually from doing this before, we've already got that file. So let's do create Python class. It's going to ask me the name of the class, person, and then it's going to log it, which should be in our output or the debug console. So person, and this is the name of that class. So we're getting that class name correctly, which is good. So after retrieving the class name, now we need to ask a user for the properties that he or she wants to have associated with that class. So we'll ask for a property first. So let property equals await VS Code, and the same sort of snippet here, window show input box. And then our prompt will say property name, and then in parentheses done when finished. And we might want to do single quotes for this just to show. We're basically going to let the user decide when they finish entering properties by typing the word done. That's how that's going to work. So then I'm going to initialize a properties array and say while property does not equal done. We want to do the same thing. So we'll go ahead and update property again. And then actually right before we do that, looks like we got a typo here that you guys might have caught. Right before we do that, we'll go ahead and add the property that we've already got to our properties array. So properties.push that property. And just for testing purposes here, let's go ahead and log out properties just to make sure that's functioning correctly as well. So let's refresh our debugger, open up the other VS Code, start this again, create Python class, person class, and then name and age, and done. And it should stop. That looks right. And then let's check it's logging out the array with name and age. That's perfect. So we're getting the name of the class that we want, and then the properties that the user wants to have associated with that class. So from here, now we can start generating the actual string that will represent the class. So we're going to start with a class definition. And just for reference, I'm going to show you guys what the end result of this is. So this is what the end result will be. And I might pull this open to the side here so you guys can kind of see them side by side. So the first thing is the class definition. And this is just where we're going to be defining the actual class. So for all of these, I'm going to use template literals. And then we're just going to put the class name inside of that and a colon, which is what this line would be right here. Then next up, we've got our constructor. So we'll do our const constructor definition. And I'm going to move this over just a little bit. All right, so we've got our constructor definition, and it's going to have def and then underscore underscore init underscore underscore, and then it's going to take in self as a property. And then it's also going to take in the rest of the properties that we've got inside of that array. So for this, we can use the join function, because we basically just want to comma separate all of the properties that we've got in that array. So what we can do is inside of our template literals, we can say properties.join, and we want to join by a comma. All right. Next up, we want to get the constructor assignments, which would be these two. So we'll say const constructor assignments equals, and we want to take each property that we have, want to map over it and get each property. And then for each property, we want to return self dot, over here now we got a little wrapping going on. and grab the property name. So grab the property and then assign that to the actual property as well. And at the end of each one of these, we want to get the formatting correct, we want to add a new line and then 2 tabs. All right, so this is going to be the constructor assignments, which is going to be these lines here, where we're taking self dot and then property name equals property name, and then add on the new line and the 2 tab characters. Now we want to do these getters. So for each one of these, we're going to create a getter function. So we'll say const class getters, and we'll do a map as again. So properties.map, and then we'll get each property. And then for each property, we're going to return another string that's going to start off with a tab. Then we're going to say def get, and then property name. And we're going to say, we're going to start the parameter part here. So it's going to take in self. Then we'll close it off with the colon on the end. And then we're going to do a new line and 2 tabs to get the formatting correct there. And from there, we're just going to return self dot and then property, and this needs to be a variable as well, self dot property, and then 2 new lines at the end of that, so that you can spread out your getters. So again, this one here is taking each property and it's defining the function and then returning that property from self. So the last thing I've got here is this the dunder string, I guess is the best word for this. So this is overriding the toString function basically, or a string function. So I'm going to call this const dunder string equals, and we're going to start off with a tab. Say def underscore underscore str, and so that's going to be the end of this line. So we'll need to do a new line with \n, then 2 tabs, and we're going to say return. And inside of here, this is going to get kind of tricky. We want to do another map, so properties.map. And for each one of our properties, we want to add something like this. So the name of the property inside of quotes, colon space, plus the actual variable name. And this gets really weird to think about when you're writing out strings that then become code and have different strings in them. So you just kind of have to buy into this a little bit. But what we're going to do is return. We're going to start off with, and this was actually a little bit easier for me to do by breaking it up without using template literal. So we're going to do this first quote and then property, and then the colon space in quote for the first property, and then add our plus inside of a string, and then property again, plus. And from there, we want to add this part so we get ready for the next property. So inside of single quotes, we'll have space, plus, space, quote, then a comma, and then a new double quote, a new plus, and then another space at the end. Now, this, what's going to happen is it's going to generate a little bit of extra character. So it would really do something like that, and we basically want to trim off these last characters, and I'll save you some time and just kind of let you know. It's going to be we need to take away the last 11 characters. So first we'll take this array. So we'll take the array, do the map, which gives us a new array. Then with that new array, we want to join it so that it becomes a string, and then do a slice from 0 to -11, which will get rid of the last 11 characters. Now I know this is really hard to follow. You'll probably just want to play around with this for a little bit, and we'll see if I even did this correctly the first time. But it took me a lot of kind of hacking around to see how to get this string formatted the way I wanted. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is create our final class string. So this is the thing that we're actually going to write out to a file, and we're going to start with the class definition. And we'll go down new line here. Then we'll add our constructor definition. And keep in mind, ES6 literals will do spacing or tabs for you. So if you tab inside of the string, that will actually be a tab on the output that you put out in the end. So we're going to tab in to do our constructor assignments. Then we're going to do our class getters. And the last thing is the dunder str or dunder string. And we'll move this template literal backtick all the way over. Whew. All right, so that was kind of a lot of work. It was probably pretty tricky. Let's log this out to see what it looks like, see if it's anything like what we want. So we'll go ahead and refresh our debug instance. Open up this other VS Code. Let's try to run this. Say create Python class. We want to do a person class with a property of name, a property of age, and then done. So we want those two properties. And we should be able to come in here and look to see. So it looks like we've got our class person. That looks good. We've got self.name equals name, and then we've got a little bit of a comma issue there. So let's come back up and look at our constructor assignments. And I think I missed, we just want to do a join at the end of this one because it's printing out the comma just because of it being an array, which we don't want, obviously. So doing a join will convert that to a string. Then in our get setters, I think we're missing the same thing. So dot join there. And let's rerun this. Let's update our debug context. Open up that other instance of VS Code. Try it again. Create Python class. Person class name. Then name and age and done. And let's come back and look at it. So we've got our class person. That looks good. Then we've got the init function, which takes these properties, and I could add a space here between the commas in the constructor definition, so I'll just add a space there. Then these are looking okay, and name plus name. So I actually think that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and work on writing this to the file. So we've got the string. Now all we need to do is write that to a file. So to do this and to work with the file system, we're going to import fs. So we'll require fs, and then we'll also want to bring in path. All right, so we've got the modules that we need. Now, back down here, we want to get the current folder path. So folder path equals VS Code, and it took me a while to find out where this was. VS Code.workspace, workspace folders, and then you want to get the first one and grab the URI from that, convert it to a string. All right, then do a split by a colon and get the first thing. So I think it will kind of tell you like file colon and then the path. So we're just kind of stripping out that file colon prefix and getting everything that comes after it. So that's what that is. So with the folder path, now we can use fs. So fs.write file, and we want to do a path join and take the folder path that we just got, and then join it with the class name variable .py. So for person, this will take person and create the person.py file. We want to write to that file the class string that we just calculated, and then we'll have our error callback. So or our callback that may or may not have an error. So if there was an error, do VS Code window show error message. Say something went wrong. I have no idea what. All right, so that'll be good enough for now. And if not, actually let's do a return there. So otherwise, we'll do VS Code window show info message. And here we can say the class name, class was created. So just to let the user know that that actually worked. Whew. All right, so that was kind of a lot. Let's go back through this really quick just to kind of talk about what we did. We started off by checking to see if the user had a directory open, which we saw if they did not, this will go ahead and return and let them know to open a directory. Then we asked for the class name. If they didn't enter a class name, we'll return as well. Then we'll start asking for properties. While the property value does not equal done, we'll go ahead and add that property to an array of properties and then continue to ask. Then we go by and create each piece of the class string that we need kind of individually by using map and join and stuff like that. And then by the end, we put all that stuff together to get one final string that we're going to write to a file. We get the folder path. Then we write to that folder the class name.py, writing class string to that file, and then we just let the user know let the user know what happened. So let's do one save here and come back over here, and we'll try to run the same thing again. So create Python class, and just so you know, to open this command palette, it's Command Shift P on Mac or Control Shift P on Windows if you didn't catch that already. So create Python class, going to be a person class with name and age, and done. Hopefully it'll create the class over here. That looks good, and that actually looks really good. I'm surprised it actually worked on the first time. So and maybe there's one piece of formatting I could have done to get that init and get these tabbed over just a little bit more like that. But I think we're pretty close. So that I think that covers the important parts of this. Again, that was a little bit tricky, at least to create the string. So I hope you can appreciate the time it took for me to figure that out, and hopefully it's useful for you. And again, just want to show you that this extension is already live on the VS Code Marketplace. And then if you're interested as well, you can check out the source code for this project on my GitHub. Let's pull it open. So my GitHub is James Q Quick as well. And then you can search for the Python class creator extension, so you guys can take it and do what you want with it. All right, so that's going to wrap up this video. Hopefully you guys got a little bit out of me walking through how to create a specific extension, one that I thought would be helpful for myself for dealing with Python. So just remember, you can do anything you want with these extensions. Get creative, solve a problem for yourself, solve a problem for others. Go out there and create something cool. I'd love to know how you guys are doing. Have you ever created an extension? Is this your first time looking at creating one? If you have any cool ones that you like, share those in the comments below. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out learnbuildteach.com to sign up for the newsletter to learn about my latest content. Thanks for watching.